My name is Clara Whitfield, and I was 29 the year I learned what a white envelope could do to a family. I had spent 6 weeks addressing envelopes by hand. Cream cardstock, dark navy ink, each name placed carefully, like a small promise to every person on that guest list. Daniel said I was being old-fashioned. I told him some things deserved doing by hand. The venue had been booked for 8 months, a restored hall with iron railings and tall windows that made the candlelight look like something sacred. My dress was champagne-colored. The centerpieces held white gardenias, and when I walked in that evening, the smell reached me first, heavy and sweet, the scent of something important. I breathed it in deliberately, the way you do when you want to remember something exactly. My sister Renee arrived in red. She moved through the room, touching arms, laughing at the right moments, greeting guests as though she had organized the whole evening herself. She was always good at events. I noticed the red dress. I just didn't understand it yet. What happened after that evening ended every version of my future I had imagined. Welcome back to her silence, where ordinary women set quiet boundaries that change everything, and dignity always gets the last word. If stories about betrayal inside your own family hit close to home, drop a comment and subscribe. I'll be here the whole way through. The speeches began at 8 o'clock. I was near the edge of the room adjusting the ribbon on my bouquet when I heard Daniel at the microphone. His voice, the one I had spent 3 years memorizing, was using my name in a sentence with a different ending. I turned around. Renee was standing beside him at the front of the room, her hand in his. 400 people watching, and many of them were already still in the particular way of people who already know and have decided not to intervene. The chandeliers made everything gold and formal, and that formality made it worse somehow. Daniel said something about honesty, something about feelings developing. He used the phrase, couldn't help it. I remember none of the words clearly. I remember Renee. She looked directly at me, and she said, quietly enough that only I could hear, you are never going to make him happy. I was doing you both a favor. She said it at conversational volume, like a clarification, like something obvious that had simply needed saying. Nobody moved to stand beside me. The gardenias still smelled like celebration. Type, I see her in the comments if this is hitting close to home, and subscribe. What happened next changes everything. By the following morning, the story had already been rewritten. My mother called before I had gotten out of bed. She used the careful tone she reserved for feelings she found inconvenient, the one that meant she had already decided. She said Daniel and Renee had spoken with her. She said she needed me to understand that these things happen. She used the word dramatic twice. My father didn't call at all. Within 48 hours, the family group chat had gone quiet in a specific way, not the quiet of respect, but the organized silence of people who have agreed on a version of events that doesn't include you. One cousin sent a voice note, just give it time. I was sitting at my kitchen table when I understood what had happened. A small oak table I had bought at 24, the first piece of furniture that was ever fully mine. I sat there with vendor contracts, unpaid deposits, a shared wedding account that now meant nothing. All of it spread in front of me. That table. I kept coming back to it. I was not dramatic. I was documentation. And I had just remembered something they had all forgotten. I was the one in this family who kept records of everything. I stopped responding. Not from pain, I had moved past that part, but from precision. I work in credit analysis. For 6 years, I have read financial documents the way other people read text messages, fast, fluently, and always looking for what's missing. I know what legitimate authorization looks like. I know the difference between a name on a document and a name that belongs on a document. I protect numbers for a living. I was very good at it. While I was planning a wedding, something else had been planned without my knowledge. I didn't know that yet. What I knew was this. A call came from an unfamiliar number. A woman at a bank branch, professional and measured, asking me to confirm activity on a joint account. I told her I had no joint account with anyone except a temporary vendor account for the wedding. She paused. That pause. I wrote her name on a notepad beside my oak table. I wrote the date, the branch number, and every word she used. Then I asked her to send everything in writing. She said it would take a few days. I said I could wait. If you have ever been the one your family dismissed, the organized one, the quiet one, the one they assumed had already given up, this next part is for you. Subscribe and stay with me, because what arrived in that envelope changed everything. The documents arrived on a Thursday, in a white envelope from the bank. I recognized the return address. I sat down at my table before I opened it. I made tea I didn't drink. I ran one finger along the sealed edge, the paper cool and smooth and slightly heavy, as though it already knew what it contained. Inside, 3 years of transactions. A personal loan opened in my name, applied for 18 months before the engagement party. A joint liability agreement between my identity and a secondary borrower. My signature on 3 separate pages, authorizing amounts I had never agreed to, releasing information I had never consented to share. My name, my credit history, my capacity, carefully built over 6 years, used as the foundation for a life 2 other people were building quietly without me. They had selected me as the successor account holder because my credit was excellent, because I had protected it carefully, because I was never careless.
They had counted on that.
72 hours. I set my phone face down and started counting. Day 1. I printed every page. 3 highlighters, yellow for dates, green for signatures, red for anything requiring my physical presence to authorize. Day 2. I called no one. Day 3 was a Tuesday. A second envelope arrived, this one from the branch manager directly. Brief. Formal. A written acknowledgement that the account had flagged during routine review and that my identity had been confirmed as primary account holder without matching secondary authorization on institutional record. In plain language, someone had used my name, and the bank had noticed. The letter was addressed to me. Only me. I read it twice at my table. Morning light came through the window above the kitchen sink, thin and gray, the kind of light that asks no questions. The tea beside me had gone cold. 3 stacks of documents, everything organized, the way I always worked. I thought about Renee and her red dress. I thought about you were never going to make him happy. I thought about my mother saying dramatic, about my father not calling, about the family chat and its careful, agreed-upon silence. Then I thought about the documents. Documents speak, if you let them. I opened my email. I wrote 1 sentence. Then I pressed send. I forwarded the bank manager's letter and every attached document to 3 places: the fraud division of the bank, the financial regulatory authority, and the compliance department at the firm where Daniel held a senior finance position. 1 sentence in the body of the email: please see the attached documentation regarding unauthorized use of my identity and credit history. Nothing else. There was nothing else to say. The document spoke. That was sufficient. Within 72 hours, Daniel was placed on administrative leave pending internal review. The loan was flagged for full fraud investigation. The wedding they had been quietly planning, while I addressed invitations by hand, was postponed indefinitely. I know this because a fraud investigator at the bank called to confirm my cooperation. She was thorough and exact. She used words like unauthorized signature, identity misappropriation, institutional liability. She told me the process would take time. I said, I'm prepared. I kept everything. She said the documents would do the work from here. I already knew that. I walked out of that call. I sat down at my oak table. The room was very quiet. I breathed. She had taken my fiancé. She had borrowed my name. She had used my future as collateral. But she had forgotten one thing. I remembered first. Renee called on a Wednesday. I watched her name on my phone screen. I let it ring. She called 4 more times that week. The 5th time, she left a voicemail. I listened once. She was crying, the kind of crying that expects something in return. She said she hadn't meant for it to go this far. She said she needed me to help fix it. I deleted the message. Not from anger. From clarity. Aunt Miriam sent a text the following week. The first message from family that wasn't asking me to manage my own feelings. She wrote, I always knew you were the careful one. I should have said it sooner. That was all. Late and exactly right. My mother called again. She said she hadn't known about the loan. I believe her. She said she was sorry. I told her the investigators would handle it. She went quiet. Daniel resigned from his firm before their review concluded. The loan is in default. The investigation is ongoing. I have not followed up. I have not needed to. What I know is this. I am sitting at my oak table, the first thing I ever bought that was entirely mine, and in the drawer beside me is the original white envelope. Not the bank letter. Not the fraud documents. The cream cardstock. The invitations I addressed by hand, 1 name at a time, in dark navy ink, for a future that turned out not to be what it appeared. I kept them, not as a reminder of what was taken, as proof of what I had built, carefully, quietly, and entirely on my own. That's my story. She borrowed my name. I kept the documents. Dignity got the last word. If this reminded you to check what your name is attached to today, your accounts, your credit, your signature, do it today. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Drop a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.